Veteran websites at curlie Society/Military/Veterans. Chapter 1. Military Veteran Websites 1. Veteran Websites. TheAussieDigger.com, The Aussie Digger. A home for all Australian veterans, ex-service members and serving members. Angelfire.com/tx4/Shannon1/pg4.html, The Price of Freedom. Honoring veterans, saying thank you and welcome home. It also is educational, creating public awareness to veterans issues, and it contains original veterans poetry. Gulf War Veteran Websites. Subcategories. Depleted uranium. Personal pages. ngwrc.org, National Gulf War Resource Center. A site for Gulf War veterans issues. Includes Gulf War search, self-help guide, and latest news updates. Korean War veteran websites. 143korea.tripod.com/index.html, 143 Field Artillery Korean War. Aims to provide information and resources for the veterans of the 143rd FA in the Korean War and their families. Unit history, pictures, stories, and veterans' contact details. kwva.org, Korean War Veterans Association. Korean War Memorials, key U.S. Army announcement, medals and award, state-level casualty lists, veterans' efforts to revisit Korea. Includes chat room and links related sites. Korean War Memorials at curlie.org/en/society/military/veterans/memorial_web_sites/conflicts_and_wars/Korean_war. KoreanChildren.org, Korean War Children's Memorial. Commemorating the humanitarian aid the United States Armed Forces rendered the children of Korea from 1950 to 1954 and dedicated to those who could not be saved. KoreanWar.org/html/Korean_war_memorials.html, Korean War Memorials. A list, with links and photos, of Korean War memorials. Vietnam War veteran websites at curlie.org/en/society/military/veterans/Vietnam_war. Subcategories. Air Force activities. Army activities. Naval activities. U.S. Marine Corps activities. Chats and forums. Organizations. PALMIA. Memorial websites. Personal pages. Related categories. Society history by time period: 20th century wars and conflicts, Vietnam War. dialysisjoe.tripod.com/Vietnam Civil Affairs/index.html, 222nd Cab S5. American GIs work to improve relations with Vietnamese civilians and orphans, 1970. AVTT.org, American Veterans Traveling Tribute. Dedicated to the ones that lost their lives in the Vietnam War and to the missing in action and prisoners of war that were left behind. Schedule, contact information, sponsorship information, and links. chrisexho.com, chrisexho.com. Hundreds of Vietnam War photos from 1969. mishlov.com/citations.html, Medal of Honor. The complete text of each of the 240 citations issued for the Medal of Honor during the Vietnam War. Members.tripod.com/airborne65_68, My Drop Zone. Dedicated to all paratroopers. Links for the wall and referencing POW/MIAs as well as PTSD. Vietnam Veterans Memorial.homestead.com/home.html, Sons of Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Honor 13 Vietnam War Heroes. Vietmemories.com, Vietnam Memories. A gathering place for Vietnam veterans of all the services and for those interested in the Vietnam experience. Guest book, unit reunion postings, stories, poems, sounds and memorabilia. VietnamDicey.com, Vietnam Medic, Field Journal. Memoir and memorabilia of a tour with the 1st of the 2nd in 1967, around Phuc Vinh, Chuan Loi and Lai Key, during Operation Cedar Falls, Operation Junction City, Operation Manhattan and Operation Shenandoah II. MemorialRubbings.com, Vietnam Veterans Memorial Name Rubbings. Obtain a free name rubbing from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial located in Washington, D.C. Photos of memorials. Virtualwall.org, the virtual wall. Personalized tributes to Vietnam War casualties with photos, poems, and letters. World War II veteran websites at curlie.org/en/society/military/veterans/world_war_2. Subcategories. Organizations. Personal accounts. Personalities. Prisoners of war. U.S. Marine Corps. Related categories. Society history by time period 20th century wars and conflicts World War II. DDAY50.com, 50th anniversary of D-Day. Angelfire.com/YT/World War II vets/Grady County vets.html, World War II veterans of Grady County, Georgia. Chapter 2. Military veteran websites 2. Veteran chats and forums websites. Angelfire.com/OK/KWVA/chat.html, Korean War Veterans Chat. 504-7160. With scheduled chats, but always open. Angelfire.com/md2/l.vets.coml.vets. Message board with opinions and tributes from U.S. Armed Forces veterans. Veteran issues websites. Subcategories. Gay, lesbian and bisexual. Health. healing.arts.org/tir/combat-ptsd.htm, back into the heart of darkness, combat PTSD. Discusses traumatic incident reduction, TIR, an alternative to traditional psychotherapy for treating post-traumatic stress disorder. Veterans.house.gov, House Committee Veterans Issues. From the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Veterans Affairs. Provides information and links concerning current topics and policies. Angelfire.com/super/citizens, it is time to put the government on notice. A personal account of one person's struggle with hepatitis C, contracted as a result of uniformed service. Includes links to other resources. NationalAlliance.org, National Alliance of Families. Dedicated to the return of America's missing service members from World War II, the Korean War, the Cold War and Vietnam. Provides updates, when a soldier's status is changed by the government. PTSD.va.gov, National Center for PTSD. Site provides detailed information on their research done for post-traumatic stress disorder. Also includes specifics for females, older personnel, Native Americans, Japanese Americans, and Hawaiians. Veteran memorial websites. Subcategories. Conflicts and wars. Individual soldiers. Individual units. Regional. Angelfire.com/country/American Pride 2, memorial site for U.S. wars and WTC attack. The history of 20th century wars that involved the U.S., memorials to veterans and a tribute page to September 11, 01. Angelfire.com/tx2/LadyBlue3, a tribute to veterans of the millennium. From WW1 to the Gulf War. Music and links. Veteran reunion websites. Angelfire.com/VA2/3RD Port Reunion, 3rd Port Reunion homepage. Fort Eustis, VA. 623ACW.com, 623rd ACNW Squadron. Reunion news and contact information. AndersonVeterans.tripod.com, Anderson Veterans Reunion. 400S, just 1.25 mile from State Route 9, exit 26 off I-69. Asalives.org. Dedicated to reuniting all veterans of the Army Security Agency, ASA, INSCOM, or MI, 1945 to 1976. Angelfire.com/realm/B2501 Airborne, B Company-2/501 ST Infantry, 101st Airborne Division, RVN 67-72. With reunion information, pictures from past reunions and links. Angelfire.com/mo2/Camphail, Camphail Expedition 1971-72. Camphail Expedition from Fort Carson, winter of 1971-72. BurtonEDZ.tripod.com, Edzell Reunion After Action Report. Report about 2001 reunion for personnel stationed at NSGA Edzell, Scotland. Gloucesters.org, Gloucestershire Regiment, Gloucesters, Back Badge Club. Maintaining contact with all who have served with the 28th LXI. Royal Gloucestershire, Berkshire and Wiltshire Regimental Association, RGBW. Helicraft.com/Kailwang, Kluang Revisited. An information source for the effort to hold a reunion of former members of 75 Aircraft Workshop and 11 FLT. AAC, Kluang, Malaysia. NAVCOMMSTA-LONDONDERRY.freeservers.com, Navcomsta Londonderry, Northern Ireland Alumni Association. This site is dedicated to locating and bringing together all the U.S. Navy sailors who served at the U.S. Navy Communications Station in Londonderry, Northern Ireland. Veteran genealogy websites. Subcategory: Military, Civil War. Mailing lists. Australia, United States. Rootsweb.com. Search forancestors.com/military.html, ancestor search, U.S. military records. Use this guide to determine if your ancestor served in the military and learn how to send away to the proper repository for his military service and pension records. nps.gov/Civil War/soldiers-and-sailors-database.htm, Civil War Soldiers and Sailors System. Comprehensive research tool for searching the records of the soldiers and sailors who fought in the Civil War. CindysList.com/military-worldwide, Cindy's List, Military Resources Worldwide. Features links to general military resource sites. Genealogytrails.com/ILL/1812HX.htm, A History of the War of 1812 in Illinois. Part of the Illinois Trails History and Genealogy Project. Includes history, maps, correspondence, and rosters. PaCivilWar.com, Pennsylvania Volunteers of the Civil War. Searchable Pennsylvania rosters, pension rolls, and histories with hints to find Civil War ancestors. SpanaMWar.com/geneaol.htm, researching a Spanish-American War veteran. A primer of methods for genealogical research of Spanish-American War veterans. Includes troop rosters, links, and how-to advice. AccessGenealogy.com/military, U.S. Military Resource Center. Links to information and records for the U.S. military researcher. Veteran PALMIA websites. Subcategories: Military PALMIA, Gulf War, Korean War, World War II. POWNetwork.org, POW Network. Avalon.law.20th_century/Geneva02.asp, Avalon Project. DPA.mil, Defense POW/Missing Personnel Office, POW/Missing in Action. war-veterans.org/palmia.htm, docs Palmia Remembrance Site. rftw.us, Run for the Wall. Regional veteran websites at curlie.org/en/society/military/veterans/regional. Subcategories: United States Air Force, United States Army, United States Coast Guard, United States Marine Corps, United States Navy. United States Marine Corps veteran websites at curlie.org/en/regional/north_America/United_States/government/military/marine_corps/veterans. Subcategories: Personal pages. Marine Corps League, Korean War, Vietnam War, World War II. evaw.org, Iraq Veterans Against the War. A group of post-9/11 veterans who are opposed to our current wars abroad. Chapter 3. Military Veteran Websites 3. Veteran Job Websites at cully.org/en/military/organizations/welfare_states/welfare_and_assistance/employment. Bradley Morris Incorporated. Provides information to officers and enlisted candidates with management and technical expertise, to aid them in placement with major corporations throughout the country. cameron-brooks.com, Cameron Brooks. Information and contacts for junior officers looking for placement into development careers in the civilian business world. CorporateGray.com, Corporate Gray Online. Offers transition assistance and career services to assist former service members in finding jobs nationwide. Military.com/veteran-jobs, veteran jobs. Find jobs, scholarships, GI Bill information, transition help and company information. taonline.com, transition assistance online. Search for openings by keyword or region. Contains information for job fairs, transitioning, and government to civilian work translation. Veteran government agencies at cully.org/en/society/military/veterans/organizations/welfare_and_assistance/government_agencies. va.gov, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Official site of the primary agency. Provides detailed information on claims submission, appeals, and local VA contact information. arlingtoncemetery.mil, Arlington National Cemetery. Official website, with detailed information on how personnel receive their interment entitlements. Provides their location, visitor information, funeral information, ceremonies, history, and photo gallery. rehab.va.gov/blindrehab, blind rehabilitation service. Provides information on programs designed to rehabilitate blind personnel, including service team and outpatient specialist programs and rehabilitation centers. Veteran agencies by U.S. state at cully.org/en/veterans/organizations/united_states/welfare_and_assistance/government_agencies/by_state. dmvia.alaska.gov, Alaska, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Dedicated to providing relevant, quality information and services. Includes several state divisions. dvs.az.gov, Arizona Department of Veterans Services. Provides information about a series of services designed to help eligible personnel and their families. Seeks to unify the community by building alliances to enhance available financial resources. portal.ct.gov/dvia, Connecticut, Department of Veterans Affairs. Provides an online guide to entitlements. vets.delaware.gov, Delaware, Commission of Veterans Affairs, DCVA. Offers contact information to help in obtaining notarized documents such as birth, death, or marriage certificates. Provides information on acquiring DD Form 214 and other records of active service. floridavets.org, Florida, Department of Veterans Affairs. Provides information on concerns related to prior uniformed service and receipt of entitlements. veterans.idaho.gov, Idaho, Veterans Affairs Commission. 504-7255. Contains information and resources to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. in.gov/dvia, Indiana, Department of Veterans Affairs. Information and resources to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. va.iowa.gov, Iowa, Commission of Veterans Affairs, ICVA. Provides resources and information to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. kcva.ks.gov, Kansas, Commission on Veterans Affairs. Provides information to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. Veterans.ky.gov, Kentucky, Department of Veterans Affairs. Contact information, to furnish representation for personnel, widows and dependents. Maine.gov/veterans, Maine, Bureau of Veterans Services. Provides information for personnel, their dependents, and survivors in all matters pertaining to entitlements for which they are eligible. msa.maryland.gov/msa/mdmanual/24dva/html/dva.html, Maryland, Department of Veterans Affairs. mass.gov/veterans, Massachusetts, Department of Veterans Services. Provides resources and contact information to help personnel and their dependents, to obtain entitlements under all state and federal laws. Michigan.gov/DMVA, Michigan, Veterans Affairs Directorate. Provides contact information for personnel and dependents to receive information about entitlements. Monthly newsletter is posted to the site, with past issues also available. SanilaCountyVA.org, Michigan, Sanilac County Department of Veterans Affairs. Provides services to veterans to ensure federal, state and local entitlements due. mn.gov/mdva, Minnesota, Department of Veterans Affairs. Serve Minnesota veterans, their dependents, and survivors, in securing benefits provided by federal and state laws. vab.ms.gov, Mississippi, State Veterans Affairs Board. Provides information and help in receiving state and federal entitlements for personnel, their dependents, and survivors. mvc.dps.mo.gov, Missouri, Veterans Commission. Resources and contact information to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. nasdva.us, National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs. Provides information and links to each state VA office and their representatives. Veterans.nebraska.gov, Nebraska, Department of Veterans Affairs. Contains contact information and resources to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. Veterans.nv.gov, Nevada, Office of Veterans Services. Resources and contact information to help personnel and their dependent families in preparing, submitting, and presenting federal and state claims for entitlements. nh.gov/nhveterans, New Hampshire, State Veterans Council. Provides resources and contact information to help personnel and their dependents in securing all entitlements and preferences available under state and federal laws and regulations. state.nj.us/military/veterans/index.html, New Jersey, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Homepage of the agency responsible for the administration of the state's programs and services. Also provides information for federal programs. nmdvs.org, New Mexico, Department of Veterans Services. Information and resources to help ensure personnel and their families receive their entitlements and services. Veterans.ny.gov, New York, State Division of Veterans Affairs. Contact information for state's free advocacy service for personnel, their dependents, and survivors. nd.gov/veterans, North Dakota, Department of Veterans Affairs. Contact information for personnel and their dependents to obtain entitlements. Oklahoma.gov/veterans.html, Oklahoma, Department of Veterans Affairs, ODVA. Resources and contact information to obtain services such as nursing, domiciliary care, education accrediting and field service counseling in the filing of claims for federal and state entitlements. Oregon.gov/ODVA, Oregon, Department of Veterans Affairs. Information is available for a variety of state and federal programs and services. Also provides links to related sites. Vets.ri.gov, Rhode Island, Division of Veterans Affairs. Resources and information to help personnel and their survivors and dependents by providing a wide range of social, medical, rehabilitative, and burial services. tn.gov/veteran, Tennessee, Department of Veterans Services. Resources and information available to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. Veterans.utah.gov, Utah, Division of Veterans Affairs. Provides contact information to help former and present members of the U.S. Armed Forces and their dependents in preparing claims for compensation, hospitalization, education, and vocational training and all other entitlements. Veterans.vermont.gov, Vermont, Department of Veterans Affairs. Contact information for personnel, their dependents, and survivors, to aid in receiving entitlements. dvs.virginia.gov, Virginia, Department of Veterans Affairs. Information and resources to help personnel and their families in obtaining state, federal and local entitlements, that they might not otherwise receive. dva.wa.gov, Washington, State Department of Veterans Affairs. Provides information to personnel and their family members. Veterans.wv.gov/pages/default.aspx, West Virginia, Division of Veterans Affairs. Provides contact information to help personnel, their dependents, and survivors to obtain all entitlements available under state and federal laws. dva.wi.gov/pages/home.aspx, Wisconsin, Department of Veterans Affairs, WDVA. Offers information on entitlements and services to eligible personnel and their families. Wyoming Veterans Commission. WyomingVeteransCommission.com